Hello guys, you guys are welcome. Today we will tell a story, and this story is it's an interesting story. And the question is, have you ever been beaten in your own game? Remember, this is the game that you've mastered for the longest time. You have a vast experience in this game, but someone else comes in and beats you in your own game. This is not an ordinary story like just any other story that we will make each and every day, but this is a unique story because it's involving the best of the best in the world. We talk about the best of the best in the world in terms of crime investigation and arresting of criminals in whichever capacity in whichever country. We're talking about the FBI. FBI. These guys are the best. They have all the resources they need to go in any country and get whatever they want as long as they have been approved. Helped by the CIA? Yep. But in 1971, something happened. And what happened is really interesting and fascinating. And I will give my own feedback. I'll give my own opinion at the end of this. So stay tuned. In 1971, there's a mysterious hijacker who parachuted out of a plane with over $200,000 and vanished. Up to now, they have never found this guy. The FBI have tried the much they can, but they have never ever found this guy anywhere on this planet. So we are left asking questions. Did this guy die or he's still alive somewhere using a different name? We will get ourselves to that. This man is suing the FBI to get. There's someone who's suing the FBI to get the potential clues on that, but let's try to get this person. So since the FBI did not know the real name of this guy, I don't know how he got himself on that plane, a commercial plane without a real name. Since they did not understand the real name, they have never known the real name of this guy. If they knew the real name, they could have apprehended him or arrested him long time ago. They gave this guy an alias name as DB Cooper. DB Cooper, the guy who ran away from the hands of the FBI. Remember, you don't run away from the FBI. Wherever you go, they will find you. It doesn't matter how long it will take. Before your case is closed with the FBI, they will make sure they have found you, arrested you, regardless where you would have gone to hide yourself. But this case is different. They have never found DB Cooper up to now. So who is this DB Cooper? Uh, so uh, yeah, it was November 24th, 1971. And this man who is unidentified but given the alias DB Cooper by the FBI had a one-way ticket on his flight to Seattle. Seattle is in the US. Uh, Cooper opened his carry-on bag to reveal a jumble of wires and red sticks and demanded 4 parachutes and 200,000 US dollars in cash. And after the plane landed in Seattle, he swapped the frozen dozen passengers or for the cash and parachutes. So when on the flight, he teases these guys with a teases the guy with a wire, a jumble of wires and a red stick to signal or to scare them off a bomb on the plane. And after that, every person is frightened on that plane, the pilot and the passengers who are on that plane. Then they got themselves to Seattle. You know, he landed in Seattle after he made his demands. Then he swapped with the passengers who were in that plane with the $20,000 bags of money and the 4 parachutes that he had requested for. Then after he was given that, whoa, uh, after he was given that and he had already packed all those stuff in on the plane, he ordered the pilot to fly to a new destination, unknown destination that the flight plan had not projected or planned for the same. And Yeah, they're talking of Mexico City. So it asked the pilot to fly to Mexico City. Then what happened when they went to they flew to Mexico City? But soon after takeoff, something happened. Cooper did something incredible that has never been done before, and many people or many experts, aviation experts, have never found an answer, and I don't think they'll ever find an answer. That was a very daring escape. You know, with the money trapped to his waist, he parachuted out of a rear of the plane and into the night, vanishing over the vast wilderness of the Pacific Northwest. The plane is up 20,000 feet, 10,000 feet high in the sky, and this guy, out of the rear of the plane, he parachutes off. That was unexpected. No one else could ever think of that, and please don't ever think of that. So he got himself out, and the pilot did not realize immediately, but he realized after some time, because when the plane is over at that altitude and you open any door or wherever, there is the pressure that comes in, though the pressure difference will signify or will give an alert to the cockpit for the pilot to understand that there is something that is going on that is not right to the extreme. But in this case, because they had seen this guy with those wires and those sticks, red sticks, and all that, they thought maybe he would have blown it off, he would have blown the plane off, and all that. So, uh, yeah, in that time, you're frightened and you don't really understand what's going on. But that was not the case. He had not blew the plane off. That was not the case. This guy went to survive. He never went. It was not a suicidal mission. He went to survive and get whatever he wanted out of it. Of course, he got it. Cooper had not been seen or heard uh, 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 ever since. His audacious stand made him a folk of hero, triggered an FBI investigation, led to tightened security at airports, and inspired dozens of books and TV documentaries talking about him. It remains the only unsolved hijacking in the US aviation history up to now. No one has ever solved that, and up to now it's not yet solved. And in fact, in a given place in the US, they celebrate DB Cooper's holiday and every day. Like, this guy's a hero in that place where he was born. This guy's a hero where he was born. There's a given day that they go out, they marry, dance. They call it DB Cooper's day, because that is amazing. That is incredible. That is unseen. That is, I have no words to talk about or to explain that, but it's a legendary action. Yeah, it's a legendary action. So, when decades pass by without any solid new leads, the FBI, as I said, they always do whatever they can do to try to get the information out and try to apprehend the criminals and all this. But in this case, they have not apprehended the criminal or DB Cooper up to now. So the DB Cooper name we are using is just an alias name, because that guy was unidentified. He had, like, they don't really know his name. And I said if they knew his name, they could have used every lead possible to get where he comes from. So when decades passed without any solid new leads, the FBI officially closed the case file in 2016. Now they closed that file in 2016. So they said, "Oh, we've tried as much as we can. We don't think if you can get this guy, wherever he went, he went. We don't know if whatever country he's in and all that." So that is all. And you ask yourself, who is this smart guy who can play the FBI in a way that they cannot really get him? Who made a mistake where and when that facilitated this guy to just disappear completely on the face of the earth? And as we said earlier, and as you understand, the FBI are the best people ever in investigations and apprehending criminals in whichever country. They have no boundaries as long as they have been given. Go on with the government of the day in whatever country that person has gone to hide himself. They'll always follow up to get you. So don't try them. Don't try them. Don't become the next DB Cooper, because they will arrest you. These guys will arrest you, and you'll answer for your mistakes. Cooper story resonates with a lot of people because it has a James Bond-esque element to it. Yeah, that is the original James Bond. Original James Bond. Did James Bond get inspiration from this guy, or did this guy get inspiration from James Bond? This guy might have gotten the inspiration from James Bond movies. Yeah, yep. Marble reality in that. So, It's like a Bigfoot legend. It's a legendary story, as I said earlier. No one was physically harmed. Of course, the crew endured some stress, but even they admit he was quite polite. All things considered, he exhibited grace under pressure. Like he knew what he's going to do, but he was not. There are those guys who will get themselves on the plane, hijack a plane, and will be very aggressive because they know their end will be that much better. But this guy was so calm and collected. So calm and collected. He never harassed anyone. No, the guys who are on the plane might have had a problem because maybe they thought this would end up like just any other plane attacks. How they end up on a plane hijacks. How they end up maybe in a very tragic ending, a tragic way and all that. But in this case, that was not Cooper's plan. Cooper went there to survive, not to die. He went there to survive and not to die. So it's really, really an interesting story that you'll hear less people talk about, but that is what happened. That is what happened. And for decades, the law enforcement and amateur investigators alike have wondered who was the mysterious hijacker. As I said, even you, I know you're wondering, even myself, I'm wondering, but I have a theory on that. Maybe we can talk about the theory at the end, what I think about that. Did he survive the fall after jumping off the plane at 10,000 feet? No, was his name really named Dan Cooper, or that was an alias? People use forged documents to get themselves to whatever they want. Especially if you're going to a place like that, you cannot use your real name. Yeah, because you really want to remain anonymous at every cost. If you really make it, you don't want people to ever know who you are so that you can use the loot in a very good way. But if you use your real name, then yeah, there's a way they always connect themselves to you and try to get you off, and you'll never enjoy whatever you went for. So they don't really know if his real name was, Dan Cooper or whoever, as his boarding pass indicated, or was that an alias inspired by a French Canadian comic book hero that had the same name, that DB Cooper or Dan Cooper, as the FBI later speculated? I told you these guys will dig deeper to try to get everything. But even digging deeper to get the comic book that had such a drawings or such a legendary actions and drawings, they never still got whoever this guy was. The only thing they know that he was David. They gave him the name, an alias name as DB Cooper, who requested for parachutes. And after requesting for parachutes, he also requested for 200,000 US dollars. After requesting the 200,000 US dollars, he got himself to the plane. Then the plane was high, and then at that altitude, he jumped off the plane. That's all they know. Yeah, that's all they know. With all the technology that is present, remember the case was closed in 2016. So with all the technology that is present with the FBI, aviation industry, and all that, they never still pinpointed the location where this guy jumped from the plane off the plane. He was a smart guy. He was a smart guy. Who was a smart guy? He's inspired a lot of people, and he's really inspiring a lot of people. But don't be inspired by him. Don't be inspired by him. Don't be the James Bond of Bungoma who hanged on a chopper. Please don't. You're not DB Cooper. That guy had, I'll give my opinion on that later. Even Cooper's name added to the intrigue. A journalist at the time misstepped it as DB instead of Dan, and the name stuck. That's how he got the name DB Cooper, as their alias name. So for 52 years, everybody's continued to call him DB Cooper, and that name has just stuck, and most people know him as a baddest man, baddest man who did much that he can. Back then, you didn't have to go through a metal detector at the airports, and that is why he was much able to get himself through with whatever he was carrying. But nowadays, there are all this technology, and you have to go through a metal detector to go through very many checkpoints for you to get yourself on a plane. Not like those days when you're just walking, like you're walking in a matatu, a bus stage somewhere. Then you just get yourself in, then you go, and then you go, and then you go, and then you go. Like such scenarios had never happened, so they had never planned, or they were not ready for the same. But remember, when things happen, they keep on improving the security systems of all the airports to make sure that things doesn't get out of hand like the way it has ever gotten out of hand. And with the very many terrorism acts within airports and airplanes, things have really changed to make sure that there's maximum security and that there is maximum collection of information, so that if, whatever something happens, it's easy for these people to try to get whoever is involved and all that. And yeah, that is our story. So this case has completely flipped off the FBI, and they have never ever arrested this guy before. I know the theory I want to give has already been given, and they have ever thought about it, I'm so sure. But the only person who can play you best in your own game is someone who knows you better and maybe who is part of the game. The only person who can play you in your own game is maybe the person who knows the game better and has ever been in that game. What am I trying to say? I'm so sure this guy understood all the basics of investigation that would be involved in his search or manhunt. And he played it cool in a way that he knew each and every step that will be taken to try to find wherever he is. So wherever he went, he tried to clear off every mark possible that can link him, can link to him and be arrested in any way. So was this guy one among the FBI officials, either retired, current, uh, was serving by that time, or what? I'm not really getting it. But for a guy to evade such a move, that guy should have been a smart guy. And that smartness, not just any other, genius story that you'll ever do. Because most of the people who work with that, they'll tell you there's always a mistake that will lead to you. You'll always leave a mark that will lead to you. They say there's not any perfect crime. If you're not careful, there's always a mark that will lead back to where you've gone. But this guy never left a mark. Impressive. He never left a mark, no DNA marks, nothing that linked him to anything that is closer to where he went. And up to now, they don't really know where this guy is. Might he be back in the US somewhere, basking on the sun with all these dollars, with a very great investment? No one knows. Might he be somewhere in the world, somewhere just enjoying his money and reading all these stories and going through all these documentaries and trying to see how they are trying to find him and they cannot find him, then he laughs at it? Might he have lived and later succumbed to whatever cause? Who is this? Who is this? Who is this DB Cooper? Who is this DB Cooper? And how smart was this guy? I want to believe if the FBI ever could have ever arrested this guy, I don't think if they could have put him behind the bus. They could have employed him. They could have employed him to help them at least track some of such a cases if it would ever happen. That's an interesting story. Yeah, that is an interesting story. One of the impossibles among the FBI files. Mm-hmm. I know you have questions. I don't have answers to your questions. I'm not DB Cooper. I don't know much about him. I don't know where he is. So don't ask me questions. But don't even think of becoming one. Because at that height, you will die. And nowadays, the security systems in all the aeroplanes and airports is much greater. You cannot come out of it. You cannot manage to be a DB Cooper. So keep it safe. Don't be a DB Cooper. Keep it safe.